They're still not wearing bras. Yeah. I mean, they've gone. So the only difference is nobody's saying, put it up on your nose. And I was, in the grocery store, nobody had. But when I went to Trader Joe's, it's pretty interesting to see the clientele.
Yeah, anywhere you don't know all the people.
I've decided that I'm gonna keep wearing my mask as long as there's a single kid looking at me.
Yes.
And so, I like to support those that are wearing them. I still cannot believe how politically this is. Masks and the virus. It's just ridiculous.
No, we can't we can't let go. There was that.
I'd like to blame everything.
No complaints and no regrets. I still believe in chasing dreams and placing bets. For I have learned that all you give is all you get. So you give it all you've got. I've had my share, I drank my fill, and even though I'm satisfied, I'm hungry still to see what's down another road behind the hill and do it all again. So here's to life and every joy it brings. Here's to life, to dreamers and their dreams. When you're young, the notes are never wrong, and soon you learn that near the music you belong. Wish we could turn the years into a longer song. I'd sing it all again. So here's to life and every melody. Here's to life and all our memories. Funny how the time just flies, how love can go from warm hellos to sad goodbyes and leave you with the memories you memorize to keep your winters warm. For there's no yes in yesterday, and who knows what tomorrow brings or takes away. As long as I'm still in the game, I'm gonna play for laughs, for life, for love. So here's to life and every joy it brings. Here's to life, to dreamers and their dreams. May all your storms be weathered and all that's good get better. Here's to life, here's to love, and here's to dreams come true. May all your storms be weathered and all that's good get better. Here's to life, here's to love, and here's to
Good morning. My name is Amy Meller. I'm a member of the Worship Associates. Our chalice lighting words this morning come from an Americana roots band based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin called The Whiskey Farm. Their 2017 album, Songs of Resistance, included the song In the Darkness. In the darkness, we can be the light. In the blackest hour of night, dawn is still in sight. But we've never needed you to fight like we do right now in this darkness. My brothers, my sisters, there's so much to be done. Who will be the ones to show the way and save the day? You and I, we will be the ones. We will be the light.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln on this Sunday morning. The sun's come out for us today. My name is Mary Kay Stillwell, a member of the Worship Associate team here at the church. Over the last several years, the way we have met has often changed. It's nice to see so many faces this morning in the church. But whether in person, on Zoom, or YouTube live stream, or some other way that we'll come up with in the future, worship together is always a chance to deepen our connection with the sources of meaning in our lives, to proclaim who we are and what we're about. We throw open the doors of the congregation and proclaim radical love and welcome everyone to the heart of our faith. The Unitarian Church of Lincoln aspires to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and our world. We have a big vision here, and we know that creating a loving community begins with welcome. So whether this is your first time or your 500th time, if you came hopeful or heartbroken, whatever your age, your gender, your skin color, whomever you love, you're welcome here. As we enter into worship, take a moment to center yourselves. Find a comfortable place with your body. Together, let us begin. Our first hymn this morning is number 34 in your hymnal, though I think it's projected. Though I may speak with bravest fire, let us stand as we wish and sing together.
My words are vain.
Our story today is called Hey Wall, a story of art and community by Susan Verde. Hey Wall, you are big, a city block big, my city block. Maybe once you were full of style, but no one has taken care of you. You are nothing to look at. You are cold, old, and empty. Hey Wall, in the fall, James and I skateboard past you as fast as we can on the way home from school. In the winter, the dirty snow piles up in front of you. No one shovels. Danny and her friends on the block build their snowmen on other sidewalks. In the spring, Grandma Addie drinks iced tea on the stoop. She talks of a time when our neighborhood was beautiful, when you were beautiful. In the summer, the ice cream truck rolls by. We chase it to a spot far from you, where we let the ice cream melt on our tongues. Each day, we all keep our eyes down. We cheer for the tiny flowers pushing through the cracks in the sidewalk, reaching for sunlight. No one looks up at you. There is nothing to cheer for. You are only lonely concrete. Hey, Wall, when we are inside with family, friends, and neighbors, there is love, there is joy. Can you smell what's cooking? We're eating together. Can you hear the stories we share about the way things used to be? We're telling jokes, belly laughing. Can you hear our music? We're salsa dancing. We are hip hopping. We are dizzy from spinning. We want to take it to the streets, but you don't dance. You don't laugh. You don't share your stories. Hey, Wall, guess what? I'm ready to change all that. I've got my pencil. I've got my paints. I've got my dreams. I am a writer, a creator, a game changer, a wall changer. James and Danny brought their sketches. Grandma Addie brought her memories. We've all brought our ideas and imagination. We give you one last look, and then we begin. I call to my family, my friends, my neighbors. We stand right in front of you, staring you down. You are our wall now. You've become our blank canvas. Your cracks and bumps and rough edges are our clean slate. Up on ladders and way down low, soon we've filled you with colors, creations, energy. You are stone, but you don't have to be hard. Hey, Wall, look at you now. You are beautiful. Now you tell the real story of us, and together we are something to see. Hey, Wall. And that is the end of our story.
A central part of our services is the time when we join together as a community to share the moments in our lives, the joyful ones as well as the sorrowful ones. Each of these marks steps along our journey, and these threads of sorrow and joy are intertwined into the fabric of our lives as we are intertwined with each other. We share these threads, and then they are woven together with others in our community. Thus, our joys are shared and magnified, and we are comforted in our sorrows. I invite you to type into the chat your name or the name of another you wish to be remembered in sorrow. And for those of you who are present in the sanctuary, if you have the name of someone you would like to share in sorrow, yours or someone else's, please lift up that name now. The people of Ukraine.
My brother David.
Brother David. I'll add my mother, Kathy. In addition to sorrow, we also have joys. I invite you now to type into the chat or share that name here in the shared sanctuary here, your name or the name of someone who has a joy today. Carnell and Casey.
I'm going to put the people of Ukraine here too, because they are very inventive
Putting the people of Ukraine in a place of joy as well because of their unquenchable spirit. Going to also add as a joy Jack Forbes Wilson, who's providing our music this morning. Regardless of your joys and sorrows, spoken or unspoken, we bring them here to the community, sometimes virtually, sometimes audibly, and sometimes silently. But one thing that we bring together each time is music and a shared joy in art. I invite you to enjoy now the hymn, When the Spirit Says Do. This is a zipper song, so although the words will be on the screen and it's the Teal Hymnal 1024, follow Jack's lead.
We might change it. This middle part, the Spirit says do, I never really knew that part, so let's start with that, because that might not be as familiar. I'll do it once, and if you know it, sing along with me. It goes like this. Spirit says do, Spirit says do. Higher, Spirit says do, Spirit says higher, Spirit says do, Spirit says do. Do that one more time, it starts low, it goes. Spirit says do, Spirit says higher now, Spirit says do, Spirit higher again, Spirit says do, Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do, oh Lord. You got to do when the Spirit says do. Here's the part we know. It goes, Spirit says do, 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 Spirit says do. You've got to sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing, oh Lord. You got to sing when the Spirit's. You've got to laugh. You've got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You've got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you got to laugh, oh Lord. You got to laugh when the Spirit. You can dance if you want. You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you got to dance, oh Lord. You got to dance when the Spirit says. You got to shout. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you got to shout, oh Lord. You got to dance when the Spirit says. Now soft. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do, oh Lord. You've got to do when the Spirit says do.
Each week, we take up a collection to support the work of our church and of our partners in the community. We do this because just as we all grow from our participation in the community, we all give back through our time, our talent, and our treasure. To give, you can text UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. That's UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Our reading this morning is from Reverend Gretchen Haley, a UU minister of our time from Colorado. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? These days we find ourselves too often stuck with these same questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails, as if it's the new zodiac capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way. As if we could prepare, as if life has ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we thought. As if we were not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour at church, we gather. We surrender to the mystery. We release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all figured out. We release ourselves from the burden of believing we have all the control or that we have none of the control. That is the courage of being in faith community together. We're forged together, felt in the Spirit, coming alive in this shared act of faith. We believe still a new world is possible, and we believe we are creating it here and now.
The pandemic has seemed like it would last forever. And now, with any luck, the end is, knock wood, nearly in sight. The absence of masks at Tuesday's State of the Union address was awe-inspiring. The president was cautiously optimistic, urging vaccinations for those who are still unprotected, including children under 5, as soon as a vaccine's available, but calling for our schools to open or to remain open and to fill up our downtowns. While the virus has not been completely controlled, thanks to improved treatment, antiviral medications, and boosters, we'll soon transition to a, quote, semblance of normal life, unquote. Earlier that day on Tuesday, I had opened the Soul Matters packet for March. Renewing faith seemed like a more auspicious theme by the end of the day. Faith is the fundamental ongoing action and energy that informs and is derived from each of the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism and lays the foundation for the 8th principle now being considered. Here at the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, our faith is what we do. We say that we aspire to be a, quote, loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and our worlds, unquote. Our mission translates this vision into a series of actions. With open minds and loving hearts and helping hands, we pledge to show up to do the work of transformation. I began to wonder if faith renewal might look any differently, take on any different forms or intensity after a 2-year-long global pandemic, an extended period of liminal time. Few of us have remained unchanged since March of 2020. Sheltering, masking, isolation, unremitting angst has, from all reports, changed many perspectives. How may our faith change? Answers sometimes come from unlikely sources. One night, as I scrolled through TV viewing possibilities, I ran across the original Twilight Zone, a series that ran from 1959 to 1964. When I was a kid, I watched in horror and delight with my family every Friday night for 3 years, and then we followed faithfully to Thursday night TV. Rod Serling played on the natural aspect of twilight, that liminal space between day and night, for the title of his very unnatural television series. In his voiceover introduction, Serling invited us into, quote, that middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, that lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. If we accepted his invitation, we witnessed something otherworldly, paradoxical, dramatic, or horrific, always unexpected. Often the story played out in that one safe space and place at the height of the Cold War, a character's home. A paradigm shift pulled the rug out from under us, just about in every episode. Serling and his writers questioned traditional gender roles, capitalism, what beauty really looked like. He asked us to consider government, truth-telling, and generally upended our formerly predictable and safe world. He made us think. He made us rethink our traditionally held values. The pandemic has surely upended our world, and as it draws to a close, we, like the characters of that Twilight Zone, are evaluating how we want to live, asking, what is important in our lives? How and in what world do we want to live? Very few of us have been untouched during our liminal time, where we too were too often suspended between light and shadow, science and superstition, and where for many of us the pit of fear was never that far away. So what now? The word liminal gives us a clue. It's from the Latin limen, meaning threshold. Liminal time is defined loosely as a traditional time between the world that was and the world that will come next. For Christian, Lent, which started this past Wednesday, offers a liminal time as they prepare for Christ's death and resurrection. Buddhists talk of Bardo as liminal time between death and rebirth. But liminal time, of course, isn't only found in religion. Many see pregnancy, for example, as liminal time. Parents then often come face to face with their deepest beliefs, hopes, and fears. The teenage years can be thought of as liminal, time when we're no longer children, and while on the threshold of adulthood, we're still not there. During this time, we develop our interests, we accrue knowledge, we develop our personalities and our own moral projects. We do accrue knowledge at an amazing pace, and it always struck me that as parents, you think they're not listening. Walkabouts, vision quests, initiation activities mark this period in many cultures. Liminal times are generally times of challenge, of rethinking, reevaluating, re-envisioning. I experienced liminality literally and figuratively, although second-handedly, every semester as a composition student via my students. That space between a student's first draft and final draft is often liminal as they work to uncover the meaning of an event or a person in their lives. I witnessed such engagement, questioning, research, interviewing, as students work to grasp and then dig more deeply into the essence of their topic and bring it to light. Sometimes the unexpected lessons we learn during a liminal period can lead to our own revision of the life we want to live and the world we want to live in. Not long after I entered the liminal period of my doctoral program at the university, I learned a lesson that changed me and has stayed with me ever since, and there was nothing academic about it. On a cold, rainy morning, I drove my son to high school for early band practice. My daughter, a middle schooler, was still asleep. The whole trip took maybe 5 minutes, and when I pulled into the driveway, I saw that a pane of glass to the right of the porch door had been shattered. Thinking of Anna asleep upstairs, I ran from my car and onto the porch. At the same moment I stepped onto the porch, I heard the front door slam. From the railing, I watched as a tall, thin man in a white hoodie leaped across the yard and took off running up Elmwood Avenue. Anna was safe. She was still asleep. The cat was upset. I couldn't see anything was taken, even disturbed, but I reported the incident to the police, and an officer arrived quickly. Would you recommend a gate or some sort of bars on the door? Should I install an alarm system? I asked Officer Taylor. What I really wanted to know was how I might make our house as safe as Fort Knox. How could I keep my family safe from any and all harm that might exist in Lincoln, or maybe the entire world? Depends on how you want to live, Officer Taylor, a lanky, middle-aged white man with seasoned worry lines across his forehead, answered with a shrug. It's all risk assessment. How large is the risk, and how much risk are you comfortable living with? This was not the answer I wanted or was prepared for. I tell people calculate the risks, he went on. For example, your neighborhood's basically safe. Break-ins are few and far between. You have neighbors home during the day. Burglars don't like neighbors. You have dogs a couple houses down. Burglars don't like dogs. Lower the lock on the door so it's out of reach of any broken window. You know, he went on, I guess from your description, your perpetrator is likely Billy James, who works the other side of O. BJ's here because we caught him on Friday on North 41st. He's 16, looking for quick drug money. You scared him too. He's a cautious kid. He goes in for church poor boxes. BJ's not coming in. He's basically a good kid. Taylor studied me. We'll see if we can convince him to go give rehab another try. He paused again. Depends on how you want to live. Think about it. Do you want to live in fear with bars on your windows and doors, or with some kind of trust? I thought about it. I thought of the figure in the white hoodie leaping down our front steps and running up Elmwood Avenue. As Officer Taylor spoke, I had remembered him from earlier that morning when I set off for Lincoln High. He was the boy standing at the corner across the street in the cold drizzle. He was tall, a gangly black boy, the hood of his sweatshirt pulled up over his head. I noticed him because he was waving his arms out front and stamping his feet because he was not dressed for cold or rainy weather. Officer Taylor, on a nickname basis with my perpetrator, basically a good kid, the same age as my son, who might be persuaded to give rehab another try. Well, Officer Taylor was earnest, his question provocative. How do I want to live? Where there is risk, there is discovery, I told my composition students. We write to inquire, to learn what we're thinking. This is how we construct meaning. Students struggled with inquiry, and so do we. Everyone resists revision, whether it's in class or in our lives. But when we're asked to engage and reflect, to reconsider insights, rhetorical and personal, new and deeper meanings often emerge. Security is mostly a superstition, Helen Keller wrote in Let Us Have Faith just after the beginning of World War II. It does not exist in nature, she went on, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. The fearful are caught as often as the bold, she said. Life is either a daring adventure or it's nothing. In the end, I too hoped Billy James, BJ, would give rehab another try. I weighed the risks. I took a deep breath. I moved the lock, decided against the bars. Gradually, the fear abated, and I learned a lesson that has served me since. Sometimes we need an Officer Taylor or experienced a pandemic in order for our hearts to awaken. Not that we as a congregation have been faithless during the pandemic. Even mask wearing and social distancing, living in an uncertain future didn't keep members of the Unitarian Church of Lincoln from showing up, renting apartment for the new Afghan community family moving to our community, offering furniture, clothing, food, and funds to see them through their transition into a new country, a new language, unfamiliar sights and sounds, shops, and way of life. It's been possible to continue letter campaigns, to testify before our city council and state legislature, to Zoom conferences, workshops, and ongoing programs, beloved conversations within and among, for example. So despite the challenges of COVID-19, we have continued to open our hearts, to share our plate, to stock little pantries about town, and to aid local women experiencing homelessness in their journey to self-sufficiency. Our faith is what we do. That said, it is important to recognize that we have lived through and continue to live in extraordinary times. We have witnessed and continue to witness extraordinary global, national, local, and sometimes personal suffering and death. It's brought us face to face with our own mortality. And as we have become aware of the fragility of our democracy, the inequities of our health care, the growing gap between the poor of our country and wealthy has continued. We have seen children killed by those we have employed to protect them. It's an understatement to say that the pandemic comes to an end, that as it comes to an end, we, like Sterling's characters, and viewers too, are not the same people we once were. Neither we nor our world are the same. But it may be, if we're open to it, we can envision a new view of the world, how it might look if actually transformed. Faith, to me, seems like an ongoing, lifelong series of commitments, a day-by-day renewal. So let's take this time, the end is in sight, as we prepare to step over the threshold and to reevaluate our lives. To open ourselves to possibility, climate change, voter registration, child poverty. I just read this, according to the 2020 census, 12% of Lincoln's children live in poverty. There's mentoring, supporting fair trade, fighting cruelty to animals, our pets, and our livestock, working for racial equality against mass incarceration. There's no end to the opportunities for transformation. It's up to us to define our world, the world we want to live in, the community we want to live in, and the congregation we want to be a part of. And it is up to all of us to bring our fresh ideas and energies as we show up. Faith is what we do. So now join me in singing number 1018 in the teal. Come and go with me. Please stand or remain seated as you wish.
Where justice. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm born. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where, and of course, there will be singing. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. Singing in that land. Where I'm bound, there'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. Where I'm bound, there'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
This morning, we've come together to share our lives, to sing of possibilities, of hope, of courage, of love, and to dedicate our continuing work as we set about transforming ourselves and our world. I know that sometimes we feel we don't do enough, that our actions are small and they don't make much of a difference. But let me assure you, every action, no matter how small, makes changes larger than we can imagine. So I'd like to leave you with one more lesson. This isn't from the Twilight Zone, it's closer to home. Those little white button mushrooms that you see in the store and on your plate. It's a poem by Sylvia Plath called Mushrooms. Overnight, very whitely, discreetly, very quietly, our toes, our noses take hold on the loom, acquire air. Nobody sees us, stops us, betrays us. The small grains make room. Soft fists insist on heaving needles, the leafy bedding, even the paving. Our hammers, our rams, earless and eyeless, perfectly voiceless, widen the crannies, shoulder through holes. We diet on water, on crumbs of shadow, bland-mannered, asking little or nothing. So many of us, so many of us. We are shelves, we are tables, we are meat, we are edible. Nudgers and shovers in spite of ourselves. Our kind multiplies. We shall by morning inherit the earth. Our foot's in the door. Go in peace.